She was the maid everyone laughed at, overweight, broke, and alone. That night broke the internet. Keep watching to find out what really happened inside the billionaire's mansion and how one act of kindness changed everything. California, 2018. The air was warm and heavy with car exhaust and perfume from the gardens of rich houses. The neighborhood between Brentwood and the ocean looked perfect: green lawns, white walls, and expensive silence. But for Jasmine Brown, a 25-year-old single mother, it was a long road of rejection. She carried a folder of references and health papers, hoping someone would give her a chance to work as a maid. Since giving birth, her body had changed, and her husband had left her for someone thinner. She was left with a 3-year-old son, unpaid bills, and no one to help. Every morning she dressed neatly, tied her hair back, and walked to another big house, praying this time would be different. But each interview ended the same. Some people laughed as soon as they saw her. One woman whispered to another, thinking Jasmine couldn't hear, saying a person like that would break their furniture. A man told her they needed someone who could move fast and let the door close in her face. Others just stared at her belly and arms and said the position was already filled, even though she had seen the ad that morning. At one house, the owner made her clean part of the kitchen as a test. Jasmine wiped the marble counters until they shone. When she finished, the woman ran her finger along the surface, smirked, and said she didn't want to make guests uncomfortable with the sight of her. She handed Jasmine 2 crumpled dollars for effort and told her to leave through the back gate. The gardener pretended not to look as she passed, her cheeks burning. Jasmine kept walking street after street, past dogs with diamond collars and delivery trucks full of things she could never buy. Her feet hurt inside cheap shoes, but she didn't stop. Every refusal felt heavier than the last. She tried to tell herself it didn't matter, that something would change soon, but inside she knew the city didn't forgive weakness or weight. By the time she reached the corner of San Vicente, the sun was low. Another house, another no. The owner laughed and said she should try the circus, not cleaning. Jasmine walked away until her knees gave out. She sat right on the edge of the road, not caring that the pavement burned through her skirt. Her folder fell open, papers scattering into the wind. Cars passed by, drivers turning their heads, pretending not to see. Tears came without warning. She thought about her son waiting with a neighbor, hungry and confused. She thought about rent, bus fare, diapers, and how people looked at her like she was invisible and disgusting at the same time. She buried her face in her hands and sobbed, her shoulders shaking. Around her, everything was clean, rich, and bright, but she felt like dirt under all that shine, something to be stepped over. The city kept moving and no one stopped. The gray electric car stopped near the sidewalk where Jasmine sat crying. The man who stepped out was young but carried himself like someone used to being obeyed. His name was Evan Hale, a billionaire who had made his money in technology. People in the neighborhood saw him as a quiet mystery, the man in the white house on the hill with glass walls and a view of the Pacific Ocean. He saw Jasmine sitting on the curb, her face red from tears, her clothes dusty. He didn't ask questions that hurt. He didn't look at her body with judgment. He simply asked what kind of work she could do and if she had a place to stay. Evan took her to his property. The house was enormous, modern, and strangely empty. There was no noise except for the sound of the ocean wind moving through open doors. Inside, everything was clean but lifeless, like no one had lived there in a long time. He told her that he needed someone to take care of the household, someone to keep things in order, manage supplies, and look after the guest rooms. It was a real job with pay and living space. There was also a small room available for her and her son. Jasmine didn't know what to say at first. She had been turned down and insulted so many times that it felt impossible to believe someone could mean it sincerely. But when she saw the room, she understood it was not charity. It was work. The room was simple, with white walls, a single bed for her son, and a small window that looked into the backyard. Outside stood 2 orange trees, heavy with fruit. From the first morning, she started working like she had something to prove. She built a routine: laundry in the mornings, checking the pantry and supplies in the afternoon, preparing the rooms before sunset. She made lists, labeled shelves, and organized every corner. Her son played quietly in the corner of the living room where she had set up a small play area. The guards and kitchen staff watched her at first with doubt. They had seen housekeepers come and go, most lasting only a few weeks. But Jasmine was different. She didn't rush or complain. She was calm and focused. Within days, the mansion began to change. The air smelled fresh, the kitchen stayed spotless, and the guest rooms looked ready for visitors at any time. Evan noticed the difference. When he came home late at night, the lights were soft, the halls quiet, and everything in its place. The house no longer felt abandoned. The workers began treating Jasmine with respect. They asked her where things were, trusted her judgment, and even shared their lunches with her son. Jasmine didn't try to hide or pretend to be someone else. She simply did her job carefully, with the patience that came from years of surviving on her own. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't seen as a burden or a problem. She was seen as someone who made things work. The house that had once been cold began to feel alive again, and Jasmine, for the first time in years, felt safe. Soon everyone in the neighborhood knew about Jasmine. The people who lived near the mansion noticed her right away. A young, heavy-set black woman walking in and out of the home of one of the richest bachelors in Los Angeles. For them, it didn't make sense. They whispered as she passed. Dog walkers slowed down to stare. Joggers took photos pretending to check their phones, and the housekeepers from nearby homes shared gossip with the gardeners. Some said she was a charity case. Others joked cruelly about her size and called her the project. A few women from the area compared her photos in private group chats, wondering what she was doing there. About Evan, they said he had lost his mind. Some believed he was bored with money and was playing a strange social experiment. Others claimed he was doing it for attention, to look kind in public. Nobody believed that Jasmine had earned her place honestly, but she didn't answer their judgment. She had no time or energy for it. Every morning she followed her schedule like clockwork. She made lists for supplies, checked the storage rooms, kept track of cleaning products, and planned food for the week. She changed the system completely. The messy storage shed became an organized space with labeled boxes for everything: towels, tools, detergent, extra sheets. She used every free container and recycled whatever she could. She liked things simple and practical. The kitchen staff started asking her advice because she always knew where everything was. Her son Micah adjusted quickly. He had his own small corner to play, regular meals, and bedtime stories every night. For the first time in his short life, he had structure and peace. Jasmine watched him grow calmer, more confident, and that gave her strength to keep going. Evan was busy with his work, but something changed about him too. He started coming home earlier. The house, once quiet and empty, filled with the normal sounds of life: the clatter of dishes, the rustle of pages, the sound of a child's laughter. It didn't feel like a cold mansion anymore. It felt lived in. Jasmine didn't hide from people or try to impress anyone. She focused on her work and on keeping things running smoothly. Every day she found small satisfaction in the order she created. She didn't need anyone to notice her to feel proud. The gossip never really stopped, but it mattered less. The people outside saw only what they wanted to see. Inside, Jasmine found something stronger: her own rhythm. Her work gave her purpose, her child gave her peace, and for the first time her days had balance. It wasn't a dream life, but it was real, steady, and hers. The party at Evan Hale's mansion was the kind of event people in Los Angeles waited all year for. Every famous name seemed to be there: movie stars, investors, socialites, and journalists. Cameras flashed nonstop as music played by the pool. The staff worked in silence, moving like clockwork. Jasmine kept everything running smoothly. She checked the tables, restocked the drinks, and kept the service team focused. For her, it was just another long night of work. The crowd was loud and restless when a well-known Hollywood actress arrived. She was famous for her beauty and cruelty, the kind of woman who always needed to be the center of attention. She noticed Jasmine standing near the pool, carrying a tray, wearing her plain work uniform. The actress smiled with mock kindness and began speaking loudly about how some people didn't belong at events like this. The laughter around her grew uneasy, but no one stopped her. Then she turned directly toward Jasmine, looked her up and down, and said something cruel about her weight. Jasmine's hands shook, but she didn't answer. She just kept her head down and tried to move away. The actress followed her, still laughing, pretending it was harmless fun. Then, with a sudden shove to the shoulder, Jasmine lost her balance. Her tray hit the ground, glasses shattered, and she fell backward into the glowing blue water. The sound of the splash cut through the music. The crowd went silent. Evan saw everything from across the pool. For a second he couldn't move. Then the shock turned to anger, sharp, burning, and personal. Watching Jasmine struggle in the water while the crowd stood frozen filled him with rage. He felt humiliated for her, but also for himself, for letting this happen in his home. The actress's smug face made it worse. At that moment, he realized what Jasmine truly meant to him. Not just a worker, not just someone he helped, but the only person in that house who had brought it to life again. Without another thought, he ran straight toward the pool and jumped in. He reached her within seconds, his arms wrapping around her as she gasped for air. The noise of the water and the flashes of cameras surrounded them, but he didn't care. He helped her to the edge, lifted her up, and climbed out beside her, water dripping from his suit. The crowd still stood in silence, watching. Evan turned to face them all, his eyes blazing. His voice came out loud and fierce, cutting through the music and whispers. "Listen to me, all of you," he shouted. "I love this woman, and I will not let anyone hurt her again." People gasped, phones rose to record, and the actress froze where she stood, pale and speechless. Evan looked back at Jasmine, soaked, trembling, her eyes wide with disbelief. His tone softened but stayed firm. "Jasmine," he said, still loud enough for everyone to hear, "marry me." The crowd broke into chaos, some clapping, some shouting, others too stunned to react. Jasmine stood still, tears mixing with the water on her cheeks. Around them, the glittering party felt like it had stopped existing. It was just the two of them, the man who finally understood what he had to lose, and the woman who had just become his whole world. By morning, the entire city knew what had happened by the pool. Headlines filled every news site. Some called Evan brave, others called him crazy. Talk shows discussed his words and his choice. Social media exploded with comments about Jasmine. Strangers who had never met her suddenly decided they were experts on her life. They wrote about her weight, her skin, her past, and her worth. Some said she didn't deserve him. Others said she had trapped him. A few defended her, saying love should never be measured by appearance. But the noise was endless. Evan's security team started blocking reporters from entering the property. Cameras waited outside the gate day and night. The internet turned their story into a fight between people who believed in love and people who mocked it. Jasmine didn't answer anyone. She stayed off her phone and focused on her son and her work. She washed, folded, organized, and cooked. Her routine became her protection. Evan stayed calm in public but worked hard behind the scenes. He told his assistants to prepare for the wedding quietly, away from the press. He arranged the location by the ocean near Rancho Palos Verdes, a peaceful place with no photographers allowed. He limited the guest list to family, close friends, and a few people who actually knew them. There would be no red carpet, no sponsorships, no performance, just a ceremony. The day of the wedding came with clear skies and a soft ocean wind. Jasmine wore a simple white dress that fit her body without trying to hide it. It wasn't made to impress anyone, it was made for her. Her son walked ahead of her, holding the rings with both hands, proud and serious. Evan waited near the ocean, dressed plainly, his eyes fixed only on her. There was no orchestra, no fancy decoration, just flowers and wooden chairs placed in the sand. When they exchanged vows, their words were short and honest. They didn't promise perfection. They promised to stand by each other, to protect their small family, and to face whatever came next together. The guests clapped softly, many of them crying. For some, it was just a wedding. For others, it was a statement that love didn't belong to the beautiful or the rich. It belonged to those who were brave enough to fight for it. The next day, newspapers and websites posted pictures of them, not from the ceremony, but from the night by the pool. Wet clothes, messy hair, and two people looking at each other like nothing else existed. The photo became the image of the week. The hate online didn't disappear, but it started to fade. People got tired, moved on, or quietly changed their opinion. Jasmine didn't read the comments anymore. She didn't need to. She had her son, her husband, and the ocean view that now belonged to both of them. The noise outside continued, but inside their small circle there was peace. For the first time, she felt free, not because the world accepted her, but because she no longer needed its approval. After the wedding, life for Jasmine and Evan didn't turn into a fairy tale. It became quieter but full of purpose. They wanted their home to mean something more than wealth and comfort. Jasmine came up with the idea to open a program for women who, like her, had been rejected and humiliated while trying to find work. Evan supported her without hesitation. They turned one wing of the house into a training center. There, women learned real skills: how to manage large homes, organize supplies, clean using safe materials, and keep records. Jasmine taught them everything she knew from her own experience. She helped them build confidence through discipline and order. The women practiced on-site, working in real rooms, handling real tasks. Each week, more women came. Some found jobs in hotels and private houses. Some started their own cleaning businesses. Many returned later with flowers or stories of success. For Jasmine, that was the best reward. Another part of the house became a children's room. Mothers could leave their kids there while they studied or worked. It allowed women to learn without fear of losing their jobs or worrying about their children. Jasmine treated every woman equally. No one came there as a beggar. Everyone came to learn, to work, and to rebuild their lives. Slowly, even the neighborhood began to change. People who once gossiped about her stopped whispering. Some even began to help. Evan continued his business but spent more time at home. Their mornings started the same way: the sound of their son running down the stairs, the smell of coffee, the view of the ocean outside the kitchen window. The mansion that once felt cold now echoed with laughter and conversation. Sometimes, when the house was quiet, Jasmine walked to the edge of the garden overlooking the sea. She often remembered the day she had sat on the roadside crying, believing her life was over. Now she knew that moment had been the real beginning. She understood that love was not a miracle or luck. It was a daily effort to care, to stay kind, and to stand tall even when others tried to bring you down. She didn't think about the people who still mocked her online or from afar. Their words no longer mattered. They were just noise carried away by the wind. What mattered was her son, her work, and the women who found hope through her story. The house on the cliff was no longer a mansion for the rich. It had become a home where anyone willing to try could start again, a place built not on money or beauty, but on simple human strength. Thank you for watching this video. Please like and comment. Your support inspires me to create more unique and interesting content for you. Every story takes time, effort, and resources to produce. These are unique narratives you won't come across on any other channel. That's what makes my videos stand out and remain truly special. Thank you for your subscription. See you again on my channel.